So, let's go over this again. We don't want to make any mistakes, and we all need to agree we're making the right decision.
Absolutely. We'd have to spend a lot of money to buy Biz Educators Inc. Almost £10 million. So let's get this right, otherwise it'll be our necks on the line.
Well, I for one think this is an excellent opportunity for our company to expand and break into a new market. I say we should go ahead with the takeover. At £10 million, Biz Educators is good value for money.
OK, Dave, I know you're very much in favour of the acquisition. How about you summarise the plus points of this venture for us? Mark, you're less certain, and you've highlighted some issues already. Will you summarise the downsides?
I'd be only too happy to. Right then, Dave. Let's start with you. Why is this proposal so attractive? What are the upsides?
It's simple economics. Biz Educators has a proven track record and is an industry leader. It is a well-respected company with a great name, has generated excellent goodwill, and has consistently made a gross profit of more than £500,000 per annum with a great shareholder return.
Yeah, but what about the net profit? That's not nearly as high. In fact, last year it made a net loss of £100,000.
Mark, that's only because it invested in a new manufacturing plant. That's a long-term investment to secure the company's future. In fact, it's a good thing, not a bad thing. It shows that the company has a clear and ambitious strategy going forward. Besides, a £100,000 loss is very small in real terms. It's hardly worth being concerned about. That loss will be clawed back within 2 years if the projected profits for 2012 and 2013 materialise. The forecast is for a net profit of £500,000 in 2012 and £1 million in 2013. The figures speak for themselves. This is a sound investment.
I have to agree with Dave. Why are you so sceptical, Mark? I see where Dave is coming from, but we're overlooking some vital facts. First of all, this company wants to remain an independent entity. Hostile takeover bids are fraught with danger. We know from experience. Remember Davidsville Inc. We spent a fortune researching that company and creating a workable business plan, only for the merger to fall through.
Mark's right. It is always difficult to buy a company that doesn't want to be sold. Davidsville was a disaster. Continue, Mark.
That's not my only concern. I'm also worried that Biz Educators is a production-based company. We have no experience running companies like that. Our market is investment banking and trading. We would have to hire outside managers to run Biz Educators for us. That's going to cost more money. Look, I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying this is a high-risk venture. Plus, there's no synergy. Our business is totally different, so we can't save costs by combining departments. We can certainly see that this decision is not straightforward by any means.
Maybe, but we have to come to a conclusion soon. It's almost 5 o'clock.
What's the hurry? Can't we postpone our decision and discuss the takeover proposal again tomorrow?
Mark, have you forgotten that we have to have our conclusions ready for tomorrow's board meeting? That's when the official decision will be made.
Goodness, it almost slipped my mind. Well, we'd best move on. Mary, John, you were uncertain before. Now that you listened to the pros and cons of the proposal, what do you think?
I think it's a great opportunity for our business. Biz Educators is definitely profitable, and it is a business on the up. It's growing, and it's a very attractive takeover proposition for that reason.
No one doubts that it's a very successful business, but the question is, should we invest? I say we should, provided we can guarantee the following. First of all, I would like assurances that the management of Biz Educators won't oppose us outright. That would make the bid too difficult. Secondly, I think we need to ask an independent mediator to broker the deal on our behalf. Last time we tried to negotiate our own takeover. It was a disaster, as Mark said.
I agree, Mary. I'd also like us to carry out another audit of the company's books. In fairness, John, I don't think that's necessary. We've done a thorough audit already. It'll just cost more money. We must keep the deal secret until it goes through, though. If this gets leaked to the press, Biz Educators won't be happy. That will make the management even more hostile towards us.
Good point, agreed. I don't think we need to be concerned about projected profit margins, goodwill or accounting issues. Biz Educators has kept very up-to-date account books.
Great. Then we're all agreed. The takeover should go ahead provided we proceed cautiously.
Now, Stefan and Lauren, you worked together on the assignment for your urban geography course, didn't you? I know you made a plan of what you were going to do before you went on the field trip. Did you stick to it?
More or less.
Okay, so where did you start?
First of all, we selected one area of the city to work in. We decided on the centre, and we looked in detail at how it has been developed by doing a survey.
We did that by walking round and dividing the area into different categories, such as residential, commercial and industrial, so we could record land use. We're going to find some maps from 50 years ago and from 100 years ago, so we can look at what has changed.
Good. So that gives you a foundation. Then what did you do?
I was interested in looking at how polluted the city was.
I thought that was too general a topic and would be difficult to check. But Stefan persuaded me, and actually it was quite interesting, because before we started, we assumed that a lot of the pollution problems would be caused by industry.
In fact, most of the industrial development has been on the outskirts. And most pollution is caused by the traffic which passes through the city centre every day. There are 5 major road junctions around the edge of the city, so we set up equipment to check the air quality on each of those 3 times on one day.
In the morning and evening, which is when most journeys are made in and out of the city, and at 2:30 in the afternoon.
On the same day, we went to the 2 busiest junctions in the morning and evening to calculate the traffic flow into the city.
Right.
We'll be able to produce some graphs from the figures we collected.
Yeah.
Presumably you then looked at where all these cars ended up.
I thought we should look at why people were coming into the city, whether it was for employment or education or leisure activities. But Stefan thought that would be too difficult.
Because most people were in cars, it would be hard to ask them.
Yeah.
So we decided to spend an afternoon examining the parking facilities available instead. We established the capacity of each car park, and we spent an afternoon counting cars in and out, so we have an idea of how long people spend in the city centre.
Do you have evidence that most journeys are made by car within the city centre?
We checked local government statistics to see if that was true, but they were inconclusive.
Everything is quite close together in the city centre, and there are wide pavements, so you would expect people to walk from one place to another.
So we chose a number of locations and we noted how many pedestrians passed a particular spot.
How did you choose where to do that?
We stood at 2 places in the business district. One in the shopping area and the other was in an area where there are more tourists.
I thought it was really important to talk to people, so we carried out a survey on how people usually travelled into the city. We asked them about their usual means of transport.
We found out that it varied according to why people were travelling. If they were employed in the city, they wanted to get there quickly, but if they were coming in for their leisure time, they didn't mind using the bus.
That's all we had time for while we were there.
Okay, so shall we talk about what you're going to do next and how you're going to divide the tasks up? How are you going to present the data you've got?
Well, some of the information can be presented as graphs or maps.
I'm quite good at the software.
You'd better do that then, Lauren. I'll help you check all the statistics before you start.
Okay.
It's good to present as much as you can visually. Is there anything else you can use as visuals?
We've got a lot of photographs which we can go through.
We both took them, so some will be duplicated. It's going to take ages to go through them all. Maybe one of us should just choose some.
It's better if you collaborate. That way you'll end up with the best of what you've got.
That's fine. We'll do that.
And when the graphs and maps are done, you'll need to write a report, an analysis of the data. Will you do that together?
I think that should be my responsibility if we're going to share the work out evenly. I can use some of Lauren's notes as well as my own.
And finally, you'll be presenting your project to the rest of the group in a couple of weeks' time.
We thought it'd be better for Stefan to do that, as he's got more experience at that kind of thing.
I would prefer to have input from both of you, as I have to do an assessment.
We'll take turns then. We'll divide it into sections and talk about a few things each.
Good. You'll find it easier, Lauren, than doing a presentation on your own. If you need to ask me any more questions while you're working on this, email me. I look forward to seeing what you produce.
So, Jake and Amanda, how did the project go?
Very well, I think, Dr. Hinton. I certainly learned a lot and enjoyed myself at the same time.
Me too.
So, remind me, what was your project about?
Basically, what makes successful people? Let's call them top achievers successful.
Yes. How are they different from us? What do they do that other less successful people don't do?
Interesting. And did you come to any conclusions?
Quite a few, actually.
Good. Share some with me then.
Well, I'd always thought that a top achiever would be the sort of person who would bring work home every night and slave over it. But it appears not. Those types tend to peak early and then go into decline. They become addicted to work itself, with much less concern for results. We found that high achievers were certainly ready to work hard, but within strict limits. They knew how to relax, could leave their work at the office, prized close friends and family life, and spent a healthy amount of time with their children and friends.
There's a lesson for us all there. Anyway, go on.
It's also very important to choose a career which you enjoy, not just one that pays well or which assures you of a pension many years down the line.
Surely that's important though, Amanda.
Yes, I agree, but being happy in your work is far more important than anything else. Top achievers spend over 2/3 of their working hours on doing work they truly prefer and only 1/3 on disliked chores. They want internal satisfaction, not just external rewards such as pay rises and promotions.
Actually, in the end, they often have both because they enjoy what they are doing, so their work is better and their rewards higher.
Yes, Jake, that certainly makes sense. Now, can I ask you something? Do high achievers, as you call them, take many risks?
Yes and no. I interviewed one business executive who told me he was able to take risks because he carefully considered how he could salvage a situation if it all went wrong. He imagined the worst that could happen, and if he could live with that, he went ahead. If not, he didn't take the chance. Other people prefer to stay in what I heard described as the comfort zone setting for security, even if it means settling for mediocrity and boredom too.
Would you call top achievers perfectionists?
Contrary to what I expected, no, I wouldn't. We came to the conclusion that a lot of ambitious and hard-working people are so obsessed with perfection that they actually turn out very little work. I happen to know a university teacher, a friend of my mother's, who has spent over 10 years preparing a study about a playwright. She is so worried that she has missed something, she still hasn't sent the manuscript to a publisher. Meanwhile, the playwright, who was at the height of his fame when the project began, has faded from public view. The woman's study, even if finally published, will interest few people.
What has this got to do with top achievers?
Top achievers are almost always free of the compulsion to be perfect. They don't think of their mistakes as failures. Instead, they learn from them, so they can do better next time.
Would you call them competitive?
High performers focus more on bettering their own previous efforts than on beating competitors. In fact, we, came to the conclusion that worrying too much about competitors' abilities and possible superiority can be self-defeating.
Yes, and we found that top achievers tend to be team players rather than loners. They recognise that groups can solve certain complicated problems better than individuals and are eager to let other people do part of the work.
Yes, loners, who are often over-concerned about rivals, can't delegate important work or decision-making. Their performance is limited because they must do everything themselves.
It looks as if you two have done a thorough job and learned something into the bargain too. Now, there are just a couple of points I'd like to clarify with you.
Hey, Janice.
Hey, Jimmy, what's up?
Not much. I'm kind of worried about these lessons we have to plan. I've not worked much with children before.
Oh, you don't have anything to worry about, Jimmy. All we have to do is choose a few art projects to do with the kids. Then we have to get the materials for them and do the projects by the end of the month.
Okay, that doesn't sound too bad then. Maybe we could get some ideas from online websites.
Yep, already did that. I printed out descriptions of the best 5 and I wanted to ask you what you thought.
Let's look over them.
Here you go. Some are from a teaching website and some are from an arts and crafts website. We can talk about what kind of materials we'll need and what would be best for our students.
The first art project here is called Make Your Own Mask. That sounds like fun. For materials, all we need are scissors, markers, stiff paper and pieces of string. We have all those at the school already.
What's the procedure again?
You give everyone the stiff paper. There are some basic guidelines the kids have to follow, like where to cut out holes for the eyes and then 1 hole for the nose. The kids then colour in the mask any way they want, or we can ask them to create masks with a theme, like animals or something.
That seems easy to do.
Okay, now the second project here.
Yes?
This one is called Shoebox Dioramas. Each student gets a shoebox and puts one long side of the shoebox into the lid. It now looks sort of like a covered theatre stage. The students then have to create a scene inside the shoebox with the materials we give them, including styrofoam and basically anything else we can think of. We can tell them to do a historical scene or just somewhere they have been before.
All right, well, what's the next one?
For art project number 3, we need egg cartons and pipe cleaners.
What's a pipe cleaner?
Pipe cleaners are basically flexible lengths of metal wire that are furry. They come in all sorts of different colours. They're very useful in crafts. For this project, you take the individual egg holder cups and stick the pipe cleaners in them to make animals.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
The fourth art project is called Paper Bag Animal. Students can use brown or white paper bags. They decorate these bags with markers or pieces of coloured felt. They decorate the bottom of the bag. When the children put their hands in the bag and hold the bag upright, it becomes a sort of puppet.
We'd need quite a few paper bags.
Yes, we'd need the small lunch bag kind. The grocery paper bags would simply be too large.
Okay, I suppose they would have them available at the corner store.
Yes, it's not very green to pack lunches in them, but they're still popular to use.
So what do you think of the last project?
Well, this fifth project sounds fun. It's called Paper Maché Sculptures. We tear some newspapers into strips and dip them into liquid starch. The kids can choose any object to cover with the strips, like a blown-up balloon. After letting them dry, the kids can decorate the paper maché with paint.
Sounds a little messy. Shall we go over them and see what's good and bad about each?
Sure. So yeah, number 1 sounds really easy to do, and you mentioned that we already have all the materials, right?
Yes, but I think I wanted to do something a bit more hands-on and creative. I mean, I suppose they can wear their masks and play around, but the project is just basically drawing on paper. It might be too easy.
I suppose so.
What do you think about number 2?
Well, it certainly is more creative, but do you think that is too hard? I mean, they would have to create whole scenes out of a lot of different kinds of materials.
Well, I think that the kids could do it. We would have to give them a little more guidance, but you're right, it might be too difficult for them. How about number 3?
I did this one as a child.
Yes, I tried to make egg carton creatures as well. It was quite fun, as I recall. Do you think we could get the supplies?
I suppose, though unfortunately the craft store in town is closed. It might be hard.
I see. Well, then, we'd have to find another way to get them if we do this project.
Okay, well, what do you think of the fourth art project?
Well, when I first looked at it, I thought it might be good, but you know what?
Yes, what is it?
Actually, I think our students may have already done this art project in another section.
Oh, really? You think they have?
Yes, I'm pretty sure now, actually. I don't think it'd be good to repeat it.
I suppose so.
How about the last project?
I really like the concept, but it seems really messy. I mean, we have to dip the newspaper strips by hand into the starch, then wrap it around something, and finally paint the object after it dries. It sounds really fun, but there will definitely be a lot of cleanup.
Well, that's too bad then. I guess I can go online and do some more research.
You know, I'll help with that too.
Thanks, Jimmy. I'm sure we'll find something.
Hi, Miss Harris. Here we are talking once again.
Well, I'm always willing to help out wherever possible. Is anything troubling you?
Well, your advice last week about writing summaries was very useful, and I'm using these summaries a lot in order to prepare my final master's thesis.
But you're having problems, right?
Yes, I have a few issues to discuss. Obviously, I want a good essay, and I want to achieve high marks, but I'm not sure on the best way to start.
That's an easy question. Start with a topic, but not one that I necessarily suggest. One that you want to explore. You'll always write better when doing so on a topic you are interested in, not one imposed upon you by others.
I'm interested in management theory.
Then pursue that. However, that alone is far too broad. Break it into various current areas of discussion and relevance. Then look more carefully at one of them. Management and cultural differences, or management and motivation, or other aspects, such as the role of salary, group cohesion, or leadership.
I would say I'm interested in group cohesion. That is, how people interact in the workplace.
Well, that's a start, but you can't then just write planlessly without defining exactly what you intend to do within the area you've chosen. You'll have to think of a thesis, and this statement could be of several types.
Such as what?
Oh, you could argue a point, something that you believe in, or discuss an issue, looking at its various perspectives, or critique the opinions of others, pointing out the pitfalls and flaws. The thesis statement will make that very clear because it will say, in simple terms, what you intend to achieve in your essay.
I see. And then I can just begin writing, right?
Wrong.
Huh?
If your essay is going to be clear, It needs to be logical and organised, and this means you'll need an outline. This could be written as a flowchart or spider graph, that is, a series of connected lines. But whatever shape the outline takes, there must be a sense of progress in, more or less, a straight line towards a goal.
And then my essay will be good?
With such progression, definitely, as long as you do achieve everything that you set out to do, as specified in the beginning, okay?
Well, Ms. Harris, your advice about essay writing all sounds very useful, solid and step by step, so I'll certainly follow that. But can you tell me in more general terms, what constitutes the best essay?
Oh, there are many aspects to consider, but one of the most important is certainly original thinking. The best essays are written by people who think for themselves, and not just copy or imitate established views.
I think I can do that.
But remember, you can't just give a list of unsupported assertions. There needs to be support as well, a chain of logic linking each step in your argument.
Right.
Yet that alone is not enough. Your argument may be logically sound, but is it practically so? For that, you need examples from real life to illustrate your points or subpoints.
I've got lots of examples from my course readings. I suppose I could use them.
But remember, whenever you use an example or facts or figures that are not commonly known, you must give a reference. That's an academic necessity, without which your writing will automatically fail.
So it's necessary to give these. Right.
Absolutely. And with that, your essay will be fine. But always ensure that you format it clearly.
What do you mean?
I mean the practical considerations, as written in the university style guide, such as leaving appropriate margins, using double spacing, Arial font, and so on. You see, your writing must look good as well as be good.
I can certainly do that.
And finally, related to the previous point, you need to respect the number of words required. Your individual lecturers will give you a word count figure, so follow what they say, making your essay neither too long nor too short. Perhaps 10% either way should be acceptable. 15% was common when I was younger, but it's a lot stricter now, and 20% would be pushing the boundaries just a little too far.
I guess I can do all that. Thanks for your advice.
Thanks for joining us today, Mike. How did Baja California become consideration for a condor release?
Our recovery plan for California condors requires us to re-establish the birds in as much as their former range as possible. Baja, being the southernmost recent range for the California condor, works well in that they were only recently lost from the area, mid-1930s, and considerable habitat still remains. It is very isolated with very few people in the area. The mountains are spectacular, ranging up to 10,000 feet, or 3,000 meters. Our selected release site is at nearly 8,000 feet, 2,400 meters.
Mike, how many birds do you envision flying free in this area, Baja, in the future?
We will be releasing 4 to 8 birds on a yearly basis and will reconsider the situation when we have 20 birds in the area.
What age do the birds have to be before moving them?
That's a good question. Typically, we move them at 8 months to 18 months old. Birds are ready to leave, from the nest at 6 to 7 months of age. In our current release group in Baja, we have birds as old as 30 months. It will be interesting to see how they behave. I expect that they will want to range more than younger birds and make it challenging for us to keep up.
Is there a maximum number of birds a certain area can support?
Yes, it's called the carrying capacity for any area, for any species. In our case, our strategy to find that number is to saturate the environment to a level where we determine that the birds are showing difficulty either in finding food, behaviourally, or in survivorship. That level is greatly determined by the availability of food in the area and nesting possibilities.
What do you hope to accomplish with this release in the long run?
I expect that well within 10 years the condors will be flying north and joining birds already released in Southern California. Hopefully we will reach at least 150 birds in each of these populations within about 15 years.
What would you say is the biggest contribution to the California Condor program's success?
That would have to be the fact that we were able to breed the birds in captivity from the 27 birds we started with in 1987 to the 205 birds we have today. This is thanks to cooperation between the San Diego Wild Animal Park, the Los Angeles Zoo, and the World Center for Birds of Prey in Boise, Idaho.
Are there any problems keeping track of and protecting your released animals outside of the US?
Nope. We are using radio transmitters and will be using the new satellite and GPS transmitters as well.
Which system is better?
Using satellites. The advantages over radio telemetry are numerous. It makes it possible to keep up with the bird's flight without being led miles in a matter of minutes. It took the young condor only a week to migrate across the state, and with just radio telemetry, poor weather can keep a plane grounded, and not all roads are accessible to track them on ground. New technology will allow one to be able to track birds that are not accessible by plane. Also, it is a new way to gauge the effectiveness of reintroduction.
How so?
If a condor transmitter works properly, researchers will get a location every 10 days for about 2 years.
Do you see an end in sight for the need to breed condors in captivity?
Yes, that would be great, but it will take a while for us to establish the two wild populations and make sure that they are sustainable. Part of our recovery is to maintain a captive flock of 150 birds in various zoos around the country as a safety net for the future.
Hello, I'm Dawn Matthews.
Yes, hello. I've been referred to you because I'm inquiring about the refresher courses that you run. I'd like to find out a bit more about them.
OK, well, we run quite a few different short courses for students who are either returning to study or studying part-time. Tell me about your situation.
I think that I really need some help in preparing for the coming semester, especially to build up my confidence a bit and help me study effectively because, you see, I've been out in the workforce for nearly 12 years now, so it really is a long time since I was last a student.
Yes, it can seem like a long time, can't it? Well, let me start by telling you what courses we have that might suit you. Are you an undergraduate or a postgraduate, arts or sciences?
Undergraduate, and I'm in the business faculty.
First of all, there's our intensive Study for Success seminar on the 1st and 2nd of February. It's aimed at students like you who are uncertain about what to expect at college and looks at a fairly wide range of approaches to university learning to motivate you to begin your study and build on your own learning strategies.
That sounds good. What are some of the strategies that are presented?
We try to cover all aspects of study. Some of the strategies in writing, for example, would be improving your planning for writing, organising your thinking, and building some techniques to help you write more clearly. With reading, there'll be sessions aimed at getting into the habit of analysing material as you read it, and tips to help you record and remember what you've read. It really is very important to begin reading confidently right from the beginning. There's also advice on how to get the most from your lectures and practice in giving confident presentations, as well as how to prepare for exams.
What about the motivational side of things?
Well, there's a range of motivational exercises that we do to help the students feel positive and enthusiastic about their study. The process of learning and exploring a subject can lead to a whole new way of looking at the world, and the study skills and techniques that you build up can be applied in all sorts of different ways.
Actually, I'm very excited about the whole thing of taking up studying again, but, you know, I'm a little nervous about whether I'll manage to get everything done. I suppose it's the same for all mature students.
Of course it is. Two of the key components of the course are time management and overcoming procrastination. People discover that once they learn to plan their days, all the work can be accomplished and there'll still be time for leisure.
Is there an enrolment fee?
Well, the cost is £30, which includes all course materials and morning tea. You have to arrange your own lunch.
Well, that wouldn't be a problem. I already make sandwiches for my 3 kids and my wife and myself every day. I won't have to change my routine.
No. Now, I need to tell you that this is a very popular course and it's essential that you book well ahead of time. In fact, the course convener tells me that there are only 5 places left.
What other course might be good for me?
There is one other that you could benefit from. It's simply called Learning Skills for University Study and is on 3 consecutive mornings, starting on a Monday from 9 to 12, and costs £25. This is aimed at upgrading the study skills most school leavers have and help them cope with the increased demands of university study. It focuses mainly on making students more responsible for their own success.
What sort of things are covered in this course?
Well, basically, it's more advanced thinking, note-taking, reading and writing strategies, but also some input about stress management.
I think I'd be better off starting from the basics and looking at all the strategies, don't you?
Yes, from what you've told me, I think that's more in line with your situation.
All right then. Can I book a place on the Study for Success seminar course now?
Yes. Let me just get out a registration form and take down your details.
Good morning, Archie. I'm glad you came to see me.
Good morning, Dr. Newell. I made an appointment as soon as I got your message.
I'll get straight to the point, Archie. It's about your research proposal. It's not even set out correctly. I understand that you haven't done the unit on research and academic inquiry yet, but nevertheless.
I must admit, Dr. Newell, I was in a bit of a muddle about just how to approach the whole thing.
Well, start a new page in your notebook and listen carefully. I'll run through it with you briefly.
I'd really appreciate that.
Right. Well, for a start, where's your title? I don't think we can consider all this rambling at the top of the page. A convincing title. It should be descriptive, but concise. You can even omit the preamble and investigation of.
Okay, a clear and compelling title.
Well, let's move on to the abstract.
Yeah, I'm not really sure I know what that is.
It's the aim of your investigation. Yours is only a relatively short dissertation, but you'll still have to include the research question, the rationale for the research, the methods you'll use, and what you expect the main findings to be.
But I don't know what I'll find, because I haven't done the research yet.
But you must have some idea.
Yes, but the results could be quite different.
That isn't a problem. That's what research is all about. Now, moving on, some people have an introduction, and others just combine it with a literature review. In your case, I'd probably suggest you just go with a literature review.
This is where I note down the books and articles that are related to my field of study, right?
It's a little more than that. You have to evaluate the relevant literature and be able to show how your research fits into a certain area.
So I write down the titles of the published material that has a similar theory to mine.
Yes, but you should demonstrate how your theory is different from others as well.
That's an awful lot of reading.
Precisely. What you have at the moment is woefully inadequate.
I guess I need to spend my summer vacation in the library.
Yes, that's not a bad idea. But let's move on, shall we?
There's more?
Yes, your next section should be methodology.
I know that means methods, but I'm a bit stuck here.
This is your work plan. This is where you summarize your data collection process.
Like, who will take part?
Yes, your participants, how you'll get your samples, and most importantly, how you'll measure your samples.
So that unit on validity and reliability will finally come in useful.
Yes, but you'll also have to consider how you'll plan to proceed.
Got that. Then what?
Discussion is the next heading.
What do I discuss?
Potential outcomes. You must be able to show what significance your findings will have and how you plan to use them. Also, I think I should mention, this is the section where you'll state any limitations or weaknesses that your research might have.
There might be a few of those.
That's it in a nutshell, really. There are more complex templates for research proposals, but I think this is enough considering the length of your dissertation. Oh, one more thing. Don't forget to include any ethical considerations there might be. Depending on what you have in mind for your participants, you may have to get approval from the ethics committee.
I have to get their written consent, don't I?
Yes, but you will also explain how you're going to protect their identity.
I think I can handle that. Thanks very much, Dr. Newell.
All I've done is go through the key elements with you. Let me explain that the proposal has to convince me that your project is worthwhile and that you have the necessary competence to carry it through.
I understand.
As you write it, you need to bear in mind 3 basic questions, and they are, what do you hope to accomplish? Why do you want to do it? And how are you going to do it? I can't make it simpler than that.
No, that's really helpful. Thanks.
Just a bit more advice, Archie. Students often come unstuck in their proposals because they don't organize their material. They lack focus and rely too much on repetition. Failure to cite references correctly will also go against you.
Is APA style good?
We don't specify a style in this department, but whatever you choose, it must be consistent.
I'll stick with APA. I know that one.
Good. One more thing, Archie. Don't ramble. You have a tendency to write without a clear sense of direction and include too much detail on minor issues. Keep the details for the major issues.
I'll make a note of it.
Okay. Get the revised proposal in to me by next week.
Hello, Tom.
Hello, Anne.
What have you been doing?
Oh, just sitting around, catching up with some reading.
I've had a great time. You know we're doing this assignment on, what is it?
Museums, their costs and benefits.
That's right. Well, I've been to the Sandgate Museum. It was really good. These local museums are really interesting because they connect people with the history of one special place. We all know about kings and emperors and battles and wars, but local museums tell us about the everyday lives of ordinary people, and that's why they are so important.
I'm not so sure about that. I think they are of interest, but they're so small that they can't give a true picture. They do their best.
I don't really agree. They do give a true picture, but perhaps not a full picture. It's the truth, but not the whole truth.
I think the smallness is the number one problem. Because they're small and local, they attract few visitors. That's why they have so little money. And because they have little money, they can't buy or maintain many really interesting exhibits. As a result, the shop is almost as big as the museum to try to raise money by selling souvenirs, postcards, sweets and so on.
I think they find it difficult, but not impossible. And don't forget, they get a lot of their exhibits free from local people. There was this boat, for example, that was fantastic.
Really? What was that?
There was a massive fishing boat, a real one, about 100 years old, and you could walk on it and get the feeling of what fishing in those days was really like.
Sounds quite good. But I've always found that these kinds of museums are a bit dingy. For example, the display cabinets are so dark that you can hardly see the exhibits, and the labels are sometimes difficult to read.
So coming back to our assignment, what we've got to decide is whether these museums should be funded by the government or just by local people.
I think it depends entirely on what kind of museum it is.
How do you mean?
Well, take local history museums. They are small, so they won't survive without financial support. But that should come from the local authority, since only people in that area or tourists will visit it.
I agree, but what about big natural history museums? Surely they should get money from the central government.
Why? Children who want to learn about nature can go out into the countryside with their school teachers. They could survive from donations, and they get loads of visitors anyway. The state should spend more on science museums, since not enough people are studying science these days.
I'm not so sure, but I do think a sort of museum which should not get public funds is the craft museum.
Yes, like museums of cotton weaving.
Yeah, which are of interest to only a very small number of people, and they should pay for it.
I agree, but a working farm is a different thing again. That's something from the past of all of us, and so it's important to the local community. Kids can learn a lot too. That's the sort of thing that the local government should be spending its money on.
Yes, I agree. I think we've got plenty of ideas for our assignment.
Mr. Peters has finally agreed that we can organise this year's college conference, so we need to really go through all the most important items in order to establish a general schedule for the conference, and how we are going to put it all together.
Yes, I agree. We can't leave things to the last minute, and there are quite a lot of good speakers who have offered their services for this conference.
It's important that things go smoothly. Don't forget that Mr. Peters has been against the idea of this conference for the last 2 years, so we need to make it worthwhile and get at least 100 students to attend so that we can prove this is an event that students can benefit from.
The most important thing we need to consider is the range of speakers who we will invite to the conference. If they are well respected in their different fields, then the students will be very keen to come and hear the talks. We don't have a massive budget either, so we have to negotiate on the fees that the speakers will charge.
You mentioned before this meeting that you have had some calls from some interesting potential speakers. Can you give us the lowdown on the rough list that you have at the moment?
Yes, the main person on my list, who is an expert in the field of business management, is Professor Harmon. He would be good at running workshops where students can discuss how to start a business, and he likes to include role plays, which make the sessions more interesting.
Yes, I've heard of him, and people have told me that he is dynamic and interesting. He doesn't like just giving lectures. He likes to get the students involved more in the discussion. We should definitely send him a formal invitation. What about another area of study, such as maths?
I have done some research on Mr. Steve Bishop. I heard about him because my brother went to see him give a lecture at a university in his area. Apparently, he is well respected among many universities in England for his knowledge in the field of maths. He has even done some research with some famous mathematicians.
My sister studies maths at university, and I think he came to her university too, to give some extra lectures. He would be a good one to keep on the list. I could send the invitation to him if you want, Sam.
That would be great, thanks. We have speakers now to talk about business and mathematics, so it would be a good idea to invite someone who is an expert in an arts subject, like English or drama. I haven't actually got any ideas for art subjects.
I'm planning to do drama at university, and I know of a lady who is the head of drama at a well-known university. Her name is Sandra Bolton. She would give some drama seminars where students can discuss aspects of theatre and production in smaller groups. I also know a professor called Mr. Max Wallington. He is a professor of English literature, and he would come and give a lecture about Shakespeare. I'll send invitations to Miss Bolton and Mr. Wallington then.
Great! That's 2 art subjects covered then. The final main subject area we need to think about is science. Dave, you want to study biology at university, don't you? Do you know of any professors we can contact?
Well, there's the famous Professor Sean O'Brien. He's done quite a lot of work in the field of genetics. I'm sure all the budding scientists will really want to come and hear him speak. As well as this, there's the mad scientist, Jeff O'Hara, who is very knowledgeable about Albert Einstein, and he can come and talk about his famous theories.
Perfect! Now that we have some speakers in mind to cover the main areas of study, we need to think about the administration and organisation of the conference. To start with, we need to send the invitations out to all the speakers we have agreed on school-headed paper. Kate, Lucy and I will take care of that. Dave, would you be able to contact a photographer to come and take pictures for the newsletter that will be printed after the conference?
Yes, I know a good photographer who's come to the college for some other events. I will contact him as his photos were of really good quality.
Lucy, would you be able to order the food and drinks? Which caterers do you think we should use? We don't want to spend too much money. We have about £400 to cover food and drink for 100 students. We need a selection of finger food and soft drinks.
I will contact Flying Fish. They're quite cheap and they will do some discounts for us, as we've used them before at the college. Don't worry, Sam. I'll sort all that out.
Excellent. We've covered a lot for today. I will book the main college hall and rooms 10, 11, 12 and 13 this week. I think we need to have about 2 more meetings before the conference. The next one we'll schedule for Wednesday the 6th of June. Can everyone do that, or would Thursday the 7th of June be better?
The first date you said is fine with me.
Me too.
Yes, that's fine with me as well.
Last thing to mention before we finish up for today is some things that Mr. Peters, our lovely headmaster, has said. As we said at the beginning, he hasn't been so enthusiastic about this conference, and he has given us some rules we have to stick to during the conference. I've made a photocopy of them for everyone. I think we should just go through them now to get them out of the way.
Good idea.
The first thing Mr. Peters said is that we have to make a record of all the students who attend the conference, as he wants those figures after the event to check that the money he gave us to organise it was worth it. He also wants to know which subject each of the students who attended is going to study at university, to show that we have provided suitable speakers at the conference. He said that he doesn't mind how many speakers we invite, as long as the lectures are well attended. The last requirement was that we help organise the travel arrangements for the speakers. We can discuss the details of this in the next meeting.
That all sounds fairly easy to manage. Did Mr. Peters not say anything about tidying up the hall and the rooms after? I would have thought that he would have said something about that.
That wasn't something on the list. I could check with him, but the cleaners who clean the college on a regular basis might tidy everything up. They would just have to be paid a bit more. I don't think the conference will produce too much mess anyway.
It would be good to get some help with all that anyway.
Yes. So, that's everything then. Let's go for lunch now. I'm starving. We can speak about the next lot of things at the next meeting.